Download view has a Boolean state property is download active. It passes a binding to this property to file details, where the value controls the display of a progress view, a spinning activity indicator next to the file name. Your challenge is to show this progress view when the download starts and hide it when the download finishes. Be sure to also hide the progress view if the download task throws an error. You only need to add a few lines of code to the download single action definition. In the task closure, you'll need a do-catch block to handle the error case. Good luck! Welcome back. Hopefully you had success with this task. Here's how I did it. In the download single action definition, I added this code before task. This gets the spinner spinning. In the task closure, I replaced the single line of code with this. Whether or not there's a download error, I set is download active to false. Build and run. Select the JPEG file and tap Silver. And there was your activity indicator. Well done! You've implemented the Silver plan. In the next episode, you'll start work on the Gold plan. Make sure the course server is running and continue with your project from the previous episode or open the starter project for this episode. Why is it important to cancel tasks in a timely manner? Try this. Build and run the project. Select a TIFF file. It's larger, so it takes longer to download, giving you time to cancel it. Now tap Gold. Before it finishes, tap Back. Look in the console. The download keeps going. But users expect this action to cancel the download. In Littlejohn, when you tapped the back button from the ticker view, it cancelled the task view modifier, which cancelled its child tasks. Look in the file details view. The download button actions aren't in a task view modifier, so there's no parent task to cancel them. You must cancel them manually. First, go to Download View and add a state property. You're just creating a place to store a task to give it a name you can cancel. Task is a type like any other, so you can store it in your view, model, or any other scope. Download task is an asynchronous task that returns no result and could throw an error. The task type doesn't return anything if it's successful, so success is void. And it returns an error if there's a failure. The task you want is in Download with Updates action. Store it in your new state property. The time to cancel this task is when the user navigates back to the main screen, which triggers the onDisappear view modifier. So add a line to this closure. Canceling download task cancels all its child tasks and their child tasks and so on. Build and run. Select a TIFF file. Tap Gold. Tap Back before it finishes. In the console, the download stops. You've implemented a simple way to manually cancel a task. Name the task. Decide where to cancel it. And call its cancel method. What if you want to cancel a download task without leaving download view? Look at Super Storage Model. Look in the jump bar. There's already a Boolean property Stop Downloads. You're keeping track of this flag in Download with Progress. You'll set this property in Download View. To make life interesting, you'll implement a fun use case. You'll display a partial image when the user cancels the download of a JPEG image file. The JPEG format allows for partially decoding images, but other formats, including TIFF, don't. To support partial preview only for cancelled JPEG files, you need each task to have a local property you can set to indicate whether it supports partial downloads. Say hello to the Task Local property wrapper. Here's how you add a Task Local property to Superstorage Model. At the top of Superstorage Model, add a Task Local property. Task Local properties must be either static for the type or global variables. Now back to Download View. To set this property in Download with Updates action, replace the Do closure code. First, wrap the file data line in a try-await closure. And then add these modifiers. The Task Local property wrapper has the method withValue to set the property's value. You use this to set the value to true when the user starts a JPEG download. You can bind multiple values this way, and you can also overwrite the values from inner bindings, but this can become hard to read. Task storage is more useful for binding complete configuration objects or whole data models, rather than separate single values or flags, as in this example. Now scroll down to the Toolbar View modifier. The Cancel Now button needs an action. Instead of canceling the download task directly, like you did in OnDisappear, you turn on the Stop Downloads flag on Superstorage Model. You'll observe this flag while downloading. If it changes to true, you need to cancel download tasks that don't support partial downloads. In Superstorage Model, in the Private Download with Progress, insert this code just before the return line. After each downloaded batch of bytes, you check Stop Downloads, and then supports partial downloads. If the downloading file isn't JPEG, you throw a cancellation error to exit and stop the download. If the downloading file is JPEG, you stop downloading, but continue execution to return the partially downloaded file. Build and run to try this out. First, tap a TIFF file, tap Gold, then tap Cancel Now. Next, use a JPEG. Wait until about a third of the JPEG file is downloaded before you cancel it, or there won't be much to see. Tap Gold. And there's your partial preview. Congratulations! You've used task cancellation and a Task Local property to add a useful feature to your app. The next fun feature you'll add is a timer to show how long a download is taking. Make sure the course server is running and continue with your project from the previous episode, or open the starter project for this episode. In this episode, you'll add a timer to show how long a download is taking. You'll use Apple's Timer class, which is much easier to use now that it has a Combine publisher. Combine is Apple's reactive programming framework. It's a huge topic with its own book and video courses. You'll find links to these below this video window. The basic Combine concepts are publishers and subscribers. Combine Publisher asynchronously emits values over time and can complete with success or failure just like an async sequence. And it's easy to use Combine with Swift Concurrency. In Download view, import Combine. Add a state property to store the timer task so you can cancel it. A timer task should start when a download starts. A good place to detect this is when you store a task in Download Task. Add a didSet accessor to Download Task. Add some housekeeping code in this didSet closure. You cancel any currently running timer task. Then, if there's a download happening, store the start time so you can calculate the duration. Now for your combined timer. You'll use the timer static method publish to get a timer publisher object, which emits the current date on the interval you specify. Create a timer sequence. You create a timer publisher that emits the current date every second on the main run loop in any of the usual modes: default, modal, and event tracking. Add another modifier. Instead of manually connecting to this publisher, you tell it to start ticking automatically whenever someone subscribes to it. Next, convert the publisher's value into a duration value. Map calculates the elapsed time in seconds and returns the duration as a string. Finally, and most importantly, you need an async sequence of duration values. Values returns an asynchronous sequence of the publisher's events, which you can loop over as usual. Time to iterate. Still in the didSet accessor, create a new asynchronous task, store it in timer task, and loop over the sequence. In fact, you can use 408 with any combined publisher by accessing its values property, which automatically wraps the publisher in an async sequence. You can test this now, but first take care of stopping the timer when it shouldn't be running. First, make the timer stop when the download ends. In Download with Updates action, add this line after you set Is Download Active to False. Also cancel the timer task when the user taps Cancel Now. In the toolbar, add the same line to the button action. Build and run. Select the file and tap Gold. Let the file download completely. The timer stops when the image appears. Go back and start another Go download. Use a TIFF file this time. Tap Cancel Now before it completes and the timer also stops. Congratulations! You've used a combined publisher to add a download timer to your app. In the next episode, you'll implement the premium download plan Cloud 9 using concurrent partial downloads.